I want to hear from you this morning. Do you have to disrupt to protest? 08000 855 949. There does, as mentioned a little earlier, seem to be a little bit of a viciousness and a sort of, well, why have they done that then to some of the protests? Dr. Rachael Molitor is a behavioural psychologist and lecturer in psychology. Rachel, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much indeed. There is a fine line between standing outside the building that perhaps embodies what you're protesting against, or the individual in the car or the walkabout or whatever it may be, to trying to burn it all down, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. I think the challenge is we do have a right to protest, and we do have a right to sort of get our voices heard. But I think there is a real stark difference between getting our voices heard and actually damaging property or damaging people's lives or damaging something to a financial route. So I think there is definitely an element that we should be able to get our voices heard. And unfortunately, as what you were saying previously, with people just writing a letter or something may not be enough to get something heard. The problem, I think, is when people go and disrupt something so much so it actually affects the lives of other people. So we absolutely know that the psychology of protesting, it is complex, it is multifaceted. And people have this right to be able to do it. But there is a real balance between the right to protesters on one hand, but also the right to the members of society to be able to continue on their lives on the other.
Isn't there also something else that needs to be done here? If you are going to protest about something that matters to you, to coin a phrase, you need to take the room with you. Or you're trying to take as many people in the room with you. And if you're doing things that people go, well, why are you doing that then? Blimey, what's snooker got to do with stopping oil, for example? That perhaps you're somewhat missing the point and you may lose the argument by the actions you've taken.
I think that's a very important point to make because, as you said, snooker doesn't really have anything to do with it, but it's about that media impact. And you find that actually when it comes to protesting, it's, as you've just said from the text coming in, it has to be newsworthy. And it's newsworthy because people will then talk about it. But what you want to do is actually when you are looking at protesting or disruption, you want to get it sort of newsworthy to a talking point in a positive way. If you're talking about it in a negative way, if anything, potentially the protest or the disruption will do more harm than is actually good. So you're absolutely right. Getting the media attention that it feels it needs. But actually, for example, the discussions around the London Marathon, it's going to affect the lives of people who've worked so hard to be able to go out, charity fundraise. I myself ran the London Marathon, and after all of that hard work and slogging it out on the roads and raising money for charity and getting all my friends and family to sponsor me, to feel like I can't finish it would be such an awful thing for me as myself as an individual. And I fully understand the protests are there for a reason. They want to be able to get their voices heard, but it's about getting your voice heard in a positive light instead of in a negative light, which could do more harm than good.
Is there a moment within our psychology where we have nothing less than to be primeval? That we have nothing less? We have, reason goes that, you think, right, blow this, I've got no choice but to absolutely go full at it, because if I don't, I'm going to go nuts inside because it matters so much. Is that a sort of like a basic drive within us?
There is a drive in us to be able to get our voices heard and to be able to do things. And sometimes if voices aren't listened to, then action is only the next phase. And you do see that with some action that happens that actually makes a change, as you were just discussing beforehand. But the change needs to happen to be able to make that sort of change happen. It also needs to happen in the right way. And I think your caller, Paul, a moment ago made a really good point about taking disruption to the person or to the people that may potentially affect it. If you don't do that, then actually you're affecting something which may not be beneficial, disrupting the London Marathon, disrupting the snooker, all these sort of ones. It's actually making it only newsworthy, but not actually taking it to the people who are around. And this is where you get onto this idea of these protests and something called the psychology of mob mentality. So sometimes people wouldn't necessarily go and do that action on their own because they will think, the consequences of doing it is too much. But actually, unfortunately, you see it with the protests, and also you see it with riots as well. Some behaviour you wouldn't necessarily do yourself.
But people get caught up in the moment. Yeah, because everybody else is doing it, therefore I'm okay. It sort of gives you licence to do it as well, because around you are people behaving like you.
Absolutely, yes. You start to think it's normal to be able to do it. It's fine to do it. And also, there's this idea of anonymity. So if you're doing something you think is wrong to do, but actually you're in a crowd, it's easy to blend in. It's easy to disperse this responsibility and actually make it more likely that someone will join that protest over someone who's not willing to take that risk.
Hence the mask and the balaclava.
Exactly.
Rachel, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Dr. Rachael Molitor there, psychologist. Thank you very much indeed.
Text 81333, starting your message with the word Bristol.
Texts are charged at your standard message rate.
BBC Radio Bristol.